is Mike Singh. You may have heard him in the panel yesterday. He's the chairman and CEO of Telecom Caribe. He has been involved in a number of projects ranging from 3G to WiMAX to mobile TV. Began his career with telecom companies such as AT&T. Is a big champion of PPP as well, just like our previous speaker. He also is a member of the Joint Government-Private Sector Committee of Experts on E-Commerce. Has done various research reports with the ITU, has been interviewed by media ranging from the BBC to Deutsche Welle, and also was part of the Fortune Global Forum in India recently. Will you all please welcome our very distinguished speaker, Mike Singh.
Over 800 million people, 34 countries, many languages, one community coming together in one natural home for the Secretariat of the Free Trade Area of the Americas. Port of Spain. Welcome to the Caribbean.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Famous
very
for
good
its
afternoon to
beautiful
you.
lush
I
rainforest,
wish first of all to thank my
unspoiled natural beauty,
esteemed colleague,
and
Madan
friendly way
Rao,
of life.
the organizers of the conference.
It's a community of
for
countries
inviting
from
me
Central
here.
and South America.
And
the
before I
many islands
proceed,
of
I'd
the
like
West
to
Indies,
announce, never
bringing together
before
diverse cultures,
in the history of
producing
my
some of the most
professional
internationally
speaking
acclaimed
engagement
personalities
globally
in all
have I
spheres
been
of
honored
human
with the
endeavor.
presence of my wife. Like
One
you
of the
to
hubs
stand.
of the recent
Please
commercial
join
activity
in
is the
welcoming my
dynamic
wife.
Square Island nation of Trinidad and Tobago, described by Forbes
I think
magazine
she's heard
as
me
the
enough
crossroads
at
of the
home
Americas.
chattering. Usually she
Trinidad
tells
is
me,
successful
shut
in
off the
securing
BBC,
the
go to
headquarters
sleep,
of
but
the
I'm always
FCAA.
trying
I
to
think
stay
it
ahead
will
of the rest of the
put
US. So
Trinidad
what's
and
happening
Tobago where it really
where
and
the
truly
sun
belongs.
rises.
It sits between the
Um,
Americas and
Let me
it's
begin
developed a
first
huge
of all
reputation
by
for supplying
saying,
an enormous amount of natural gas into
here is
the
the son of
United States
India.
America. It's established its
I'm a son of
credentials,
the
in my
Indian
view, as far
diaspora
as,
by way of Guyana,
the international
with my
financial
wife
community
being of
and so
Indian
on.
descent.
It was a
Nimish
great
Ladwa,
fortune to Tobago.
son of Africa of
It's a
Indian
country with
descent
lots
from
of energy,
Uganda,
including
Tariq
large
Malik,
offshore fields
son
of
of
oil and gas,
Pakistan,
which
the
have attracted the
subcontinent
world's
of Indian descent,
multinational energy company.
born in the UK.
But it's also the energy
And
of its
Akshay at the
people
back,
that makes the place so
another
unique,
person of
with
Gujarati
the creative
descent
vitality of its
Ceylon.
carnival celebration,
This is
and the
almost
musical
faithful
invention
or
of Calypso
photo
and steel set,
beneath here.
bringing fame and
170
many
years
visitors to the
ago,
islands.
my ancestors,
We have
like
created
many
concerts
Indians here, were brought from India to work in the sugarcane plantations in Natal, Africa, or the West Indies. It was on this very hallowed soil that Mahatma Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi got his first awakening to free Mother India and fight for human justice and dignity. So for me to come back to the land where Mahatma Gandhi, and today in an era where India is rising and Africa will rise too, it's truly a blessing. We've seen the dawn of technology, we've seen how Western Europe, North America progressed. But if I may quote Kishore Mahbubani, the pendulum has shifted to east. It's no longer north-south, it's south-south. Brazil, India, China, South Africa, Philippines, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Sub-Saharan Africa is what's going to sustain global growth for the next 50 to 100 years. India in 1804 controlled 15% of global GDP. China and India are rising. Sad to say, the West is seeing the aging, Japan is aging, so the shift is southwards. So I wanted to talk to you about what we in the Caribbean are doing to prepare ourselves for this dynamic technological and economic shift in global trade and commerce. First, I begin by letting you know what is the Caribbean Basin. There's a region that stretches from the southern United States, from the Bahamas, located just east of Miami, all the way down in an arc-like fashion to Trinidad in the very south, the southernmost of the Caribbean islands. There are several Central American and South American countries, including Belize. There are several countries such as Belize, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, etc., that have a common coastline with the Caribbean Sea. This whole area is called the Caribbean Basin because of the Caribbean Sea, and the Gulf of Mexico is there, which you're familiar with. However, for the purpose of my presentation and argument, we mostly restricted to the Commonwealth Caribbean countries, starting from Anguilla all the way down to Trinidad and Tobago, otherwise referred to as the CARICOM group, and that will serve to include Guyana, which you can barely see, and of course Suriname. The Caribbean Basin is a very interesting place because prior to, let me get back. Yes. We're going to talk about pre-GSM, pre-deregulation, the status quo and future developments. And before GSM deregulation, prior to 2000, this was a closed market. It was almost like the Martian landscape. Getting through from one island to the other was painful. Cable and wireless, and I make no disrespect in this, were even referred to sometimes by its own employees as being cable and clueless, exercised an absolute monopoly in all fixed and wireless operations. Absolute monopoly. People literally waited around their entire lifetime to get a basic dial tone. Overall service at best was mediocre, and at worst patently horrible. Service and product offerings were extremely limited. There were no such things as roaming, or in many cases this was non-existent or restricted for Caribbean subscribers and overseas visitors. These are many of the islands where they operated: St. Vincent, St. Kitts, Antigua, Jamaica, Grenada, and Antigua and Barbuda, rather, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Kitts, Antigua and Barbuda, at St. Lucia at the bottom. Liberalization and deregulation have become the order of the day. In fact, Jamaica was the first CARICOM country to test the waters by issuing 2 new mobile licenses via an auction, and AT&T Wireless, which was formerly Singular, had also entered the market, but later on sold all of their Caribbean assets, including Jamaica. The new entrants into the Caribbean market were the startup. They call them the new kids on the block, the Irish boys, Digicel. Talk about the Irish. We've never had anyone done what they've done for us in such a short time. When they say kiss the Blarney Stone, we are very thankful for Ireland, for Dennis O'Brien and his group for being so committed and visionary and gung-ho about coming into place and taking these risks. And eventually we also had Oceanic Digital, so CDMA operates in Jamaica, which is now rebranded MyPhone and is now owned by Telmex. The Organization of Eastern Caribbean States has since followed suit by establishing its own regulatory body known as ECTEL to govern the issuance of new licenses. For instance, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, Dominica, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you already have Digicel there as well as cable wireless. Other markets that Digicel have quickly entered within the last 3 years are Barbados, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, Suriname, Belize, Cayman Islands. They're getting into the Bahamas. They're in Turks and Caicos. They're throughout the British Virgin Islands, the Dutch West Indies, as well as the French West Indies. And let's talk about what has happened in the last 4 years, because Digicel only launched service in the last 4 years. The company has grown from 1 to 22 markets, from 0 to over 6 million subscribers. In Jamaica, when they first entered, in 1 week, they got 250,000 subscribers. In less than 3 months to 6 months, they'd wrested 80% of the market away from the incumbent. In Haiti, Digicel got 1.5 million subscribers in 6 months. The future will undoubtedly witness rapid consolidation as existing operators engage in price wars. Currently, we are seeing rapid deployment of 3G and 4G services, including HSVPA, HSUPA, long-term evolution, as well as IMS. We are seeing aggressive deployment getting ready to be launched for all the value-added services, ringtones, mobile content, mobile banking, global positioning services, etc. Digicel has just announced an aggressive WiMAX rollout, and this way, existing players can provide quadruple and triple play offerings. Even the incumbent cable and wireless is getting ready to deploy IPTV. We expect the expected march by America's Mobile, Carlos Slim, the world's second richest man and the richest man in Latin America, who owns Telmex across the region following a recent acquisition in Jamaica. And in the call center space, we are going to see greater focus by the region on capturing KPO, business process outsourcing, and knowledge process outsourcing jobs that India will now seek to outsource to these nearshore locations due to rising capex. We expect, with the costs going up in places like Bangalore and what have you, India will be outsourcing close to 30,000 jobs to nearshore locations such as the Caribbean. We are in the same time zone as New York and Miami and Atlanta. English is our dominant lingua, so it's not hard for us to quickly get our people up to speed and to fill that void. In addition, it will not be before long that I say a global mobile giant makes its presence felt. This will be accomplished either by an acquisition of an existing operator to give them economy of scale or large footprint, as well as new licenses, including the acquisition of distressed assets for our joint venture. We believe that the entry of a global titan into the Caribbean mobile market will help to ensure a strong global brand, improve content, on-time delivery, first-class customer care, and ultimately a world-class pan-regional mobile network. This is a challenge I put out to Etisalat, to Zain, to MTN. Come west. The first American settlers, after they had set up the U.S., went westward because of the gold rush in California. We are saying to you that Latin America and the Caribbean, having a population that is so young, and we only have less than 20% teledensity, and close to 1 billion people. You take out the US and Canada, you're looking at about 800 to 750 million people. If you invest early in the Caribbean Basin mobile sector, this will ensure an early entry for operators seeking to springboard into the free trade area of the Americas, which is a marketplace of almost 1 billion people, stretching from the Canadian Arctic to the Chilean Antarctic. And I'm just going to talk about some case studies here quickly in Barbados and Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago. Barbados issued 3 new licenses in March 2003. There are two dominant operators now. B-Mobile, which is the cable and wireless branded regional mobile operator, and of course Digicel. There are now 2 new subsea cables being developed in addition to the existing ECFS or Eastern Caribbean Fiber System, of which Cable and Wireless and France Telecom as well as UTS are partners. The third licensee, unfortunately, in Barbados never launched due to poor management and funding constraints. So that is a distressed asset that's available. In Guyana, we have had the new entrant Digicel. They went through hell, absolute hell with the incumbent over interconnection issues. The incumbent has only just migrated to GSM GPRS, and Digicel was the first in Guyana to introduce BlackBerry service. In fact, it was the first operator across the Caribbean basin with the exception of Orange in the Dominican Republic, they've introduced BlackBerry service. Trinidad and Tobago, I like to call the jewel in the crown. 80% of U.S. natural gas imports comes from this small but vibrant island. Trinidad and Tobago has the ability to become the Dubai of the Caribbean, make no doubt. They're sitting on about $20 billion of cash. With oil and gas trading so high, they're now positioning themselves to become an international financial center. This is a country that's just below 1.6 million people, but it's the financial hub. And the incumbent, TSTT, is 49% owned by Cable and Wireless and 51% owned by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. As you can see, that's a more youthful picture of Prime Minister Patrick Manning. Digicel has forced the incumbent to slash prices radically, and a recent court ruling has mandated TSTT, which is the incumbent, to abide with the interconnect regime stipulated by the Telecoms Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. And when I talk about a recent court ruling, can you imagine your court rules, for instance, for let's say Telcom or Vodafone to do X, and you refuse to obey the court order? I think just by the hair of their chin, the executive management of TSTT were not put into jail for ignoring a court order. So they are now complying, whether they like it or not, because prior to this ruling, only 2 months ago, it was only calling party, sending party keeps whatever they need to keep. There was no benchmark or exchange and settlement. The third licensee never launched due to poor management and poor choice of CDMA in a predominant GSM arena. And to tie in with this jewel in the crown, Trinidad and Tobago has a very ambitious plan called the Vision 2020, which is to move the country away from oil and gas through an aggressive economic diversification program to help it become an ICT-enabled society. So they're going to more or less go from oil and gas towards information communications technologies, financial services. We have a labor shortage in Trinidad and Tobago. We're importing Chinese workers to do the jobs. There's a massive building boom on the way, and the per capita income is already close to $15,000, which is quite high in the Caribbean. We have regional institutions for development that tie in very well with PPP. We have got the Caribbean Community, known as CARICOM or the CSME. They've got a free trade agreement with the Southern African Development and Cooperation Area, SADC. We've got the Organization of American States, which is a grouping of the 6 Eastern Caribbean states, which consists of St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the Spice Isles, Grenada. It's got the Economic Commission for Latin America, the Eastern Caribbean Telecoms Authority, the Caribbean Telecommunications Union. It's got the Caribbean Association of Networks and Telecoms Operators. You've got the Caribbean Digital Divide Initiative, of which I am the chairman, and that's modeled after the World Economic Forum's Global Digital Divide Initiative. The regional office of the ITU is based in Barbados, and the Inter-American Development Bank and the IIC, which is more of a bank for lending to the private sector, also has an office there. So in other words, if anyone were to invest in the Caribbean, if you're making an investment in any CARICOM member state or a borrowing country of the IDB, you will be entitled to tap into regional investment vehicles such as the commercial banks, lending institutions, and at concessional rates, funds from the development banks, which Digicel did when they went into Haiti. Current progress. Central America is opening up. Panama is going to boom. I don't know how many of you have been to Panama or followed what's happening, but Panama is going to become the Singapore of Central America. Hutchinson Whampoa, one of the world's largest port operators, is very involved in the expansion progress of the Panama Canal. Panama is today beginning to look like Dubai or New York City. Massive construction is on the way. Every turn you go in Panama, there is some major construction project. And they have zero taxes. You don't pay taxes on income, you don't pay taxes on imports. It's a big proponent of free trade. Digicel is pre-qualified along with Orange, America Movi, which is Telmex, to bid for new licenses in Panama for wireless spectrum, including WiMAX. Costa Rica, I was there, and oh, how sad. My BlackBerry did not work. Very sad. I couldn't keep in touch with my lovely wife. Even more, I think, actually worse than that is the fact that there is no prepaid. And it gets even more interesting. The incumbents, ESE, really do put you on ice because one half of the network is Ericsson and the other half is Alcatel. So if you're provisioned on the Ericsson switch and you happen to go into the Alcatel footprint, you're on your own and vice versa. However, they have ripped out all of the Alcatel stuff, I understand. They're going purely with Ericsson. And Costa Rica will open up its telecom sector to new entrants in both wireless and cable broadband. Belize and the Bahamas. We know Bahamas is famous for offshore banking, but also follow suit shortly. And the regional incumbent C&W is in the process of deploying DSL 2.2 as well as internet multimedia service gateways. The lady from Seychelles I was speaking with, and I told her offshore banking is something her country should look at, and we in the Caribbean would be very happy to lend our expertise as we are kings at the game of helping you to hide your money. Opportunities for operators and investors. As I said, you need a global or regional mobile player to enter this growing market now. I do see some limitations for Digicel, and I did share this with fellow Irishman here. They have grown, they've gotten big. They do have a large debt load, but you have to give them credit for what they have done, wanting to go up against the Goliaths or the gorillas of the business like Telefonica or against Telmex. Small Irish company now based in Jamaica, running head to head. You've got to admire that. But I have said, and I continue to maintain, that if you get into the lion's den, you don't have the reach to fight with the lion, you're going to be eaten. So they need a global brand that will drive forward innovation, create economy of scale, and improve the quality of service. This region actually has one of the highest ARPUs globally in per capita income in the developing world. They're considered middle developing countries, MDCs. In fact, they could no longer borrow from the IMF because we've got per capita income in the Bahamas. The Bahamian dollar is equal to the US. The Cayman dollar is higher than the US. Barbados has maintained a stable exchange rate of 2 Barbadian to 1 American for the last 25 years. Trinidad and Tobago has maintained a very stable exchange rate of 6.25 against the US dollar for the last 50 years. How would you not like to have ARPUs of $35, $20 per user? Caribbean people like to talk. And with data just coming in, it's going to rise even more because we are committed to building an ubiquitous society. We have strong fiscal incentives for ICT and telecoms investments, as I said, including access to local capital markets. Telecom investments are actually now the leading non-oil and gas sector of the regional economy. Between 2000 and 2004, across the entire Caribbean basin, we had over $7 billion in direct capital inflows in the telecommunications sector. 4 to 3 billion of which alone went to mobile. Haiti and the Dominican Republic alone constitute a joint market of no less than 20 million persons. I want to say thank you, merci, gracias, obrigado, shukran to all of you, and appreciate being here. I do have a parting clip to share with you, which they will play.
What do you get when you pair up several sandals? A mega vacation with the Sandals exclusive exchange program.
Oh, I can't believe it's happening to me. So give away the lifestyle for a moment like this.
Just give me the G's and we be clubbing, y'all. Clubbing, y'all. Y'all are meant to please and we be thugging now. Thugging now. Sipping Hennessy and we be bubbling, y'all. Bubbling, y'all. Set the minor teas, we gotta take it slow.
Ladies and gentlemen, content is our biggest export from the Caribbean. Sean Paul, Bob Marley, Rihanna, Shaggy, and the list goes on. We are also leaders in cricket, financial services. Officially, the Caribbean is open for business, and Mike Singh is open to your question. No holds barred. And I thank the
Mike.
enlightened chairman.
Questions, comments, please? We can squeeze in a couple of questions before the next session.
Please don't be shy.
I have one for you otherwise, Mike,
Sure.
which is, you mentioned a list of intergovernmental cooperation initiatives
Yes.
in mobile, etc. What are some of their outcomes, success factors, initiatives, etc.?
Well, in fact, the government recognizes that digital constipation has been the order of the day, and they're very accommodating. Caribbean Digital Divide Initiative has undertaken with its partners in Cisco, Hewlett-Packard, and also the major operators, both cable and wireless, Digicel, TFCT, etc., to address the digital divide by setting up a number of community-based learning centers so we can help the poor, socially disenfranchised, and this, unfortunate sectors of our society to learn to use computers, become computer literate, and have access to telecommunications. In fact, the Rupununi Weaver Society in the very deep jungles of Guyana near the border with Brazil is a beneficiary of this. We helped with the design of their website. The Amerindians weave their hammocks, they put it on for sale on the internet, and these hammocks are selling for as much as $2,000. That alone can feed an entire household or several households in a poor sector of our society for the entire year. In the case of Jamaica, Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee, that can be had in any part of the world. In fact, the Japanese spend as much as $50 a pound for it. And now Jamaican farmers, Haitian farmers, all organic producers of goods, we are helping them to take their product to the world. We've received inquiries from as far as Dubai with an interest in buying Dominican Republic made or Jamaican made cigars. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Macanudos and Romeo and Juliet, of course that's Cuban, but the rest of the Caribbean, we have so much to offer. In fact, with the loss of our preferential markets for rice, sugar and bananas, all we have is our human capital. We've produced 3 Nobel Prize winners, my brothers and sisters. 3 Nobel Prize winners came from these islands. And I know we can do it. If we can produce 3 Nobel Prize winners, we've got the indomitable will to lift ourselves out of poverty. And we want to have South-South integration with this continent. Many people in the Caribbean trace their roots to Nigeria, to the Gold Coast of Ghana. We are multiracial, we are multicultural, and we are committed, irrevocably committed, mind you, to linking people, connecting minds, and bridging cultures. To be a Caribbean person is to be open and to be generous. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. A round of applause, please, for a fantastic, impactful speech as usual.